Hey guys, today in this video, I'm going to be teaching you methods and tables. I'm first going to go over tables because that was kind of going to follow up in methods, but you'll need to learn the previous video to understand what I'm going to say here. So with a table, I'm going to assign it local, just because it's good coding to do this, and I'm going to assign any variable name I want. I specifically am just going to call it TBL and anything. Let's call name. You don't have to name this, just name it whatever you want. As I told you in the previous video, you can name it anything. Use the equal sign because we're going to assign it to a table. And we do curly brackets on both sides. Curly brackets means we're going to be using a table. Whatever's inside of the curly brackets is the table information. So if we were to look at my paint right here, this is usually what you see inside of a math class right here. Usually give it an x and a y, or it could be x and then a function if you're a higher grade. But I'm gonna assume you guys are like in middle school or a lower grade. You should have at least taken algebra and at least know what a table is. If you don't, you should really search that up. But you should know x. So whatever x value we give it, it will give us a y. So if we gave an x of 3, it's going to give us 7. If we gave an x of 1, it's going to give us a y of 3. It's whatever we give x, it will give us y. You can name x to be z, so if we give it z, it'll give us y. You can change y to whatever you want, it doesn't matter. They're just placeholder names. So we're going to try to make this exact same thing on our table. So it's good coding to make it look neat. If I press enter, backspace enter, it's gonna look like that, and I press tab. Okay, doing this will make things look a bit neater and better to understand when someone else tries to read your code. Obviously, when you first start out, you don't need to do this, but it makes you be able to read it better when you go over it. So what did we say? We want x1. We want x1, 2, 3. Okay. So whenever we do, I just want to let you know about everything in coding always starts from 0 to x. So if we have 10 things on our table, it goes from 0 to 9, okay? Not 1 to 10. It can go from 1 to 10 if you set it up the correct way to go from 1 to 10, and you each go 1 is equal to this, 2 is equal to that. But if you're just starting off from the regular number, which is 0, it will be 0 is equal to this, 1 is equal to that, okay? Just so you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a number here. So the first number we did was 1, okay? We're always going to be putting brackets. Brackets are basically what is defining, it's almost like a variable, what we're doing right here. So we're saying TBL name. So if I were to go here and I did TBL name and then I do brackets again and I did 1, it's going to go here. So I'm going to do equals, put an equal to number, and we said we wanted it to be equal to 3. Okay, 3. All right. So basically, these are your x's and these are your y's. So if we give it this as an x, we're going to get this as a y. This is going to be the value we get. So you can call this whatever you want, x, g, whatever. People call it keys and then values. Doesn't matter as long as you understand it. So we said 1 is equal to 3. We do a comma, so that what that does is it makes a new basically row and a new row, if you want to say. So what that does is 1 equal 3. Then we can go on the next one. 2 is equal to, and then let's look back, 5. And then we can do 3 is equal to 7. We don't need to put a comma at the end here because there's nothing at the very end anymore. We only have to put a comma if more is going down. But you can leave a comma there if you want. Okay, it doesn't really matter. So now that we did that, table.name. If I did print, let's look at what happens. Right at the bottom here, it says a table. You can't just like we did in the previous video, I believe we try to print a variable with the function, and it would print function and then an ID. This, you can't do that. This is literally just printing the table. You can't print a table because it won't give us anything. Unless you were trying to give this table to like a function, then you would give just the table. But if you're giving something specific, if I want the number 3 to print, I'm going to give it an x of 1. So if we look back at this, if we gave if we gave an x of 1, we would get we would get a y of 3. So if I gave it 1, we should get 3. I press run, it gave us 3. Same thing with 2. If I do that, change this to 2, press run, it gave us 5. Okay, and so on and so on. Okay, if I try to give it 4, we don't have anything at 4. It's going to give us nil, which is nothing. There's nothing there. No such thing. Now these can be more than just numbers. These can be anything. So unlike where you were taught in here where it's just numbers, these can be even strings. So if I did, let's keep one and let's do, let's call this number 4. Okay, and then we can equal this to be anything. We can also, like I told you before, variables can be data. They can be datas. They can be tables, functions, booleans. They can be anything. Like I said here, this can be a bool. It can be true, so which is bool. It could be false. It could be filled at 35. It can be another string. It could be what else? It can be another table inside this table. There can be so many things. It can be a function, which would be getting into methods after this, and pretty much anything. So I'm going to actually, instead of giving a number, I'm going to give it, this is x4. Okay, so now if I try to do x4, TBL name 4, it still gives nil, because this now is the number 4. It's not assigned to an actual number 4. It's assigned to a string called number 4. Now you can't type in number 4 like that, okay? Because right here it's asking for a string. So it has to be the string number 4. So now if we try to run this, it's going to print out this is x4. Alright? So now that at least you can get a hang of this, not only is this the only way to do it, this is called, I believe it's called bracket notation, but there's also another way you can do this, is called dot notation. Now this way only works with strings, or anything that has a variable name. So actually, there's more than just this. You also can put a variable in here. So, test is equal to 25, okay? So, not only can you put, assign a variable, you can also ask for not only can you do 1, 2, 3, and then a string, but you also can give, assign variables too. Variables, so you could do test, but the way I usually do it, let's look here, is do dot notation like that. Now this will do the same thing as you did before. It's just I guess I never did that method before by doing it that way, but I guess this is one of my own personal things. Is just by doing dot notation, and basically what this is doing, table name, and then a dot basically means go into, and then find test. Now this also can be used with number 4. Okay, as you can see, it printed this as x4 because we did number 4. Okay, this, we can't ever do this with numbers. If I did 1, you see how it's doing that like that? We can't do it that way. Just because it doesn't, if it was like F1, maybe, but no. With doing numbers, you have to do it that way, no matter what. So now that you get a basic concept of how tables work, Roblox gives us a already basically a library of tables. So for example, I'm going to show you a thing called math.random. And basically what this does is, this is a function that Roblox already made for us. And it prints us a number from 0 to 100. Okay? And inside we can give it numbers that we want it to get in between. So 0 to 100. And it would give us 89. It's a number in between. Okay? Doesn't matter. But I'm not trying to teach you any methods right now. I'm trying to teach you what this is. So math, right? So math is like a table. It's math equals, and it's a table, but then you have functions in there. So for example, this is a dot. So then there's a one called random in here, and then it's equal to a function, and then this function is what's doing the calculations to give you a random number. Okay, so that's what's happening in this situation right now here. So yeah, that's what's happening. It's just calling it from the table and getting it. I actually never tried this. I just thought of it, see if it actually does work. So what this is doing, okay, so yeah, it works. That's pretty cool. So what this did is, this is a loop. I didn't teach you guys that yet, but it's going through the table, and it's going through, and it's printing the key part. So as I told you, there's a key, the X, and then there's a Y. So the Y part of it would be the actual function. We don't want to print the function. We just want to see what type of stuff's in there. But this X, if we see here in the console, we have a log, noise, pi, cosine. We have absolute value. We have random, like we just saw. But we also can do a print v instead. Now this is just going to give us functions. As you see here, they're just a list of functions. So yeah, that is how methods work. But there's also sometimes methods are in a specific way. So if I give you an example, like maybe this is why. Tab. Whoa. Let's copy this method. Put it there. Whoa. It worked. Okay, so that's why. Alright. So that's why. Okay. But tab method, you know, we're just gonna say tab and then the colon and the method. I'm sorry for my rusty, if you want to call rustiness. Alright. So that's where you'll get a lot of stuff, like there's something called find first child. Now that's something I should have taught you guys first, is parent and child. If we look in the hierarchy here, so as I said before, service script service is a parent of script. If I put this in here, module script is a child of script. So script is the child of service script service, but the parent of a module script. Okay, so just FY for further instructions. All right, peace.